Welcome to the Overcome Medical Hair Loss Summit. My name is Valerie Fuentes. I'm your host, and today I am with Georgie. She's joining us from the UK. I am so excited to have you today. You are one of the accounts that I have been following lately that I just felt attracted to, and I think that I've shared this with you before is because you just had a baby. And that's something that I want to, move forward to. Like, I want to have a child too. And like a lot of the things that you're sharing, like I can totally relate because I'm thinking about that myself. So I don't know. I love following you, like watching you like deal with this as you're pregnant, then having your baby. Now, you have a newborn. So thank you for sharing all that.
Thank you so much for having me.
Of course. So for those of you who don't know you, tell us a little bit about you and your hair loss story.
Okay, so hi everyone. I'm Georgie and I have androgenic alopecia, but I also, as a teenager, had quite an intense period where I used to pull out my hair. So when I was about 14, up until then, I had normal hair. It was never really thick, but it was, I had a good covering of hair. And then I found, I used to fiddle with my hair a lot, and I found this really thick white hair. And I was like, oh, why have I got this really thick white hair? So I pulled it out, and that kind of spiraled until I was pulling out my hair every day. And it went on for about a year. And then my hair started to get very thin and people started noticing. So my parents took me to the doctor and the doctor hypnotized me, which was the weirdest experience ever. But it worked. So it stopped the really strong urge to pull. And I was kind of at that point where I wanted to stop because I realized that my hair was looking so thin and I was really embarrassed when people would make comments about it. So I got hypnotized, and it didn't stop me pulling completely, but it took away the very, very intense urge. And then since then, I'd always kind of fiddled a lot with my hair, but my hair never really properly grew back. And so for years, I beat myself up because I thought I've pulled out my hair and it's not grown back and it's all my fault. And it was when I had my baby, my first daughter, and I don't know if you people know, but when you're pregnant, your hair generally gets a bit thicker because it stays in your head for longer, and it looks the pregnancy hormones make it look glossy, and so my hair was at its best. And then about 3 or 4 months after you have the baby, you have this like intense shed, which is totally normal, and it's where all those extra hairs kind of fall out. So my hair shed a huge amount, and then most people, their hair then kind of equalizes and goes back to normal, but mine stayed thin. So I went back to the doctor and they had a look at the sort of pattern of my hair loss, and I explained about how I used to pull out my hair, and he kind of said, well, actually, you only pulled your hair out for a year, it should really have grown back. And that's when I was diagnosed with androgenic alopecia. And essentially what I did was start that thinning process earlier than it would have otherwise happened, which was really frustrating, but in a way it was a weight off my shoulders because actually it wasn't my fault that my hair was thin. I know I pulled it out, but so since then, I feel like having a diagnosis has made me accept it a bit more. If that makes sense.
Got it. So just going a minute back about when you were pulling your hair, how did that make you feel? Like having that urge? And I just, want to get a little bit of background because I know we have some people in the audience that are living with trichotillomania right now. So, like, what would you recommend to them? Because I know, I think I've heard from you before that therapy really worked for you. So, like, what worked for you to move out from that space?
Well, the being hypnotized, which I don't know if that's something that doctors offer now, but that seemed to kind of make something snap in my head that kind of lessened the urge. But yeah, I had some CBT, which it's
cognitive behavioral therapy. Yeah.
And that has really helped to make you aware of why you're pulling your hair out. And even now, when I'm anxious or stressed, I fiddle with my hair more. And I also, so I've been with my husband for years and years and years. And so he would always tell me off. If he caught me playing with my hair or looked like I was going to pull out a hair, he would not shout at me, but, he'd say, Georgie, what are you doing? And it used to annoy me so much, and I wanted to punch him. I'd be like, why are you stopping me from doing it? But it made me aware of what I was doing, and quite often I would be kind of sitting there like this, not even realising that I was fiddling or playing with it. And so that helped, because there was someone constantly there saying, don't do it, don't do it. But I mean, even now, I haven't fully got it under control. I don't tend to pull my hairs out of my head anymore, but I fiddle, and then I look for split ends in the end of my hair, and I either cut them out, or if I haven't got scissors to hand, I'll bite them off or pick them off, which is obviously not a healthy thing to do. But for me, it's kind of better to do that than to pull. And I do pick the skin around my fingers a little bit. So I haven't got it. I don't think you ever completely get it under control, but it's just about having coping mechanisms to make you aware of what you're doing, and then you can stop yourself.
Absolutely. I think definitely awareness helps. All the women that I have interviewed that have trichotillomania tell me that, awareness is a big thing. And I've seen people wear bracelets, different things that just gives you a signal that, you're about to pull, or, and obviously having a family member that can remind you not to do it, that has to be super helpful. Okay, awesome. So then moving on to, what you were experiencing during pregnancy and after pregnancy, I wanted to comment on that too, because I find it so interesting that for some women, like you said, you do get I've heard that some of them got all their hair back during pregnancy and then lost it all. And I've also heard the opposite. So I also think that it's case by case, right? Like, it's not like a one size fits all, and then if you get pregnant, you're going to get your hair, because that might not also be the case. But I, going back to sharing with you guys that I don't know that I'll get pregnant this year with all this madness that is happening. Was my plan. I'm thinking about it now. But hopefully next year. I also want to get pregnant and have my first child. And like, that's one of my fears. I don't have a lot of hair, to be honest with you. Like, I think like probably this much hair is my hair. But I'm not ready to lose it all, if that makes any sense. And so I'm just thinking, like, how do I manage that, right? Because you're pregnant and your hormones are already crazy. So I can't imagine going through a shed, right? That it's so painful already while you just had a baby, and going through, postpartum things and all those things. Like, how do you manage all that?
Like you just kind of, I think you're so consumed when you've got a new baby, all of your focus is on them. And it was a real kind of shock when I had this shed. And I mean, at that point, I hadn't discovered toppers or alternative hair or anything like that. So I was still very much like, oh, I feel really self-conscious. I used to wear hats a lot. And then it kind of progressed to like the brown dry shampoo to kind of cover up the thin patches. But I think my focus, I wasn't really focusing on myself. Like, I felt I was quite overweight because I just had a baby. And so I didn't really rate my appearance. I wasn't necessarily going out much because I was breastfeeding, and it was my first baby. So I was I had a lot of anxiety with my first child. So all of that kind of, I haven't really answered your question of how you cope with it. I think you're more focused on your child than yourself.
Okay.
But obviously I've just had my second child, and she is now 3 months. So I'm kind of coming up to that point where I'm going to have another shed. And I feel like I'm so much more prepared for it this time. Like pregnancy hormones are so unpredictable. So I might lose loads of more of my hair, and then I'll have to stop wearing toppers and move to wigs. And I'm kind of psyching myself up for that, because at the moment I've got enough hair here to clip in a topper. But I'm kind of thinking, actually, if I do have a big shed, is that going to change? And do I need to start thinking I will have to just wear wigs? But it might not be too bad. So I'm just sort of tentatively preparing myself that it could be really bad, but hoping that it won't. But then I feel like I've got my safety blanket, because I don't go out without my hair in now. So I'm not as worried, because I know I have got something that will work for me, and I know that I've got wigs as an option as well. But I guess it's more about, if you know it might happen, then you can at least prepare for it, and it's not going to be a huge shock.
Yeah, I love
and
that.
It's worth it, because you have a cute baby. Like, I would never say to someone, don't have a child because you're going to lose your hair, because it's 100 times worth it for the smiles and when they're asleep and being sweet.
Absolutely. And that's also I don't know if you have heard my story, but like last time I went to the doctor when I was diagnosed again after 10 years of being diagnosed, and that was like anyway, I've had hair loss for at least, I don't know, like 16 years, but I got a second diagnosis 10 years later from the first time. And at that time they told me that if I tried X medication, then I couldn't have children. And my first son, like right away, I said, no, thank you.
Yeah.
And like what my priorities are, obviously, starting a family, and definitely not my hair. So I do think that obviously, and if it's your first child, like your perspective completely changes right away, right? And like things that are important are more important than obviously your hair. So I totally agree. I'm sure like you don't, you probably didn't think about it, but I've also know that when you have a baby, or at least that's what I've heard, is that your body issues are like exponentially more apparent, right? Because you're like exploring your new body, and like all the changes of your body. So I was thinking like, wow, like not only you have to deal with all of that and hair loss. So like, yeah,
that's where I was going with that. It is tough. And I mean, I miss my old 20s body, but then I kind of I look at my stretch marks and slightly saggier boobs, and I just think my body has grown and birthed 2 children. Like, that's a pretty amazing thing for your body to do. So although yes, okay, I don't love my body, I still am grateful for the fact that it's managed to do that, and the fact that I can feed my children and all that kind of thing. And hair is still really important to me, but you're right, it is kind of slightly lower down on the pile, because you've got more important things to think about, like looking after your kids. And it does kind of, having kids really changes you. It's hard to describe, but your priorities just change, and you think that you're going to be a certain way, and you think you'll be, you judge parents who are in a restaurant and their kids are screaming, or they've given their kid their phone to watch Peppa Pig, and you're like, oh, I'd never do that when I have kids. And then you have kids and you want peace and quiet, so you give them the phone and you make them watch Peppa Pig so you can eat a meal in peace.
Oh my God, I love that. Yeah, so true. Awesome. So what made you say, okay, I'm gonna wear a topper? Like, what was the trigger that you said I had enough?
I had been noticing people, like, I knew that my hair was thin, but I'd see photos of myself and I'd just be like, oh, you can see my scalp and you can see like thin patches. And then I'd started using the kind of brown spray, which I hated because I'm quite a sweaty person, so it would often kind of drip. But the main trigger was my best friend asked me to be bridesmaid for her wedding. And I was so honoured to be asked, but the thought of everyone staring at me tons of photos being taken. I was like, I can't have my hair as it is and be confident as a bridesmaid. So I kind of just started researching hair extensions, and then I stumbled across toppers, which I didn't even know existed. And I was like, oh, that's exactly what I need, because my hair loss is here and I have still got some hair here. So, you know, hair extensions aren't going to help me. Yeah. So I got my first topper, and that just changed everything. It honestly gave me so much confidence, and I had an amazing time at my friend's wedding because I wasn't worrying about my hair. And then it kind of, I slowly started looking at other pieces, and I think probably over the space of about a year and a half, I wore my first topper, and then I bought a second thicker topper. But it was only last year that I set up my Instagram account, and then all of a sudden it was like, boom, this huge world of hair, and I suddenly discovered all these different brands and companies and synthetics, and I just had this one human hair topper. And that kind of blew my mind a bit, but I spent quite a long time just looking at pictures of people and being like, oh, I want that one, and kind of got a bit overwhelmed. But then I discovered this amazing community of women, and how supportive everyone is, and I haven't looked back.
That's amazing. So what made you start? So did you start a hair account? Do you have a personal account? Do you have a hair account? Or how did you manage that? And why did you start an account?
So I had a personal account for a while, and then I decided, so last summer I decided to set up a hair account. And I loved my topper, but I had this kind of fear in my chest whenever I was out and about. I was terrified of anyone noticing that it wasn't my hair, or someone commenting on my hair. Like if someone said your hair looks nice, I'd feel really guilty because I knew it wasn't my hair. And so although it was amazing to give me more confidence, I also was kind of scared of my secret being revealed. And then I just decided that I was tired of feeling like that. And I thought, how can I start to kind of be more open? And I started to follow a few hair loss people on my personal account. And then I was like, actually, I'm going to make a separate one, and I'm going to come out to this community that seems really sort of supportive. And then doing that was like a weight lifted off my shoulders. And that gave me the confidence to then tell people in real life, I know people on Instagram are real, but, you know, tell people that I saw. So my friends and family, like close friends and family, knew about my toppers, but by coming out to people on Instagram, that then gave me the confidence that if someone said, your hair looks really nice, I would say, oh, thanks, it's a topper. Or more often than not, I'd say it was a wig, because people don't know what toppers are, and it's easier just to say it's a wig. And then they'd either look a bit sort of, oh, or they'd be really interested and say, oh, I didn't know, it looks so natural. And then they'd ask me questions, and it kind of opened up a dialogue about hair loss. And I have to say, it's scary at first to be open, but it's so nice not to worry and not to be thinking, oh God, are they going to notice that it's not my hair? And my older daughter's just started school, so there's like a whole load of school mums that don't know about my hair. And I have been wearing this same hair every single day for drop off and pick up. And I suddenly thought to myself, am I scared of what they think? But no one said anything. And I was like, actually, if someone asked me, I would just say, oh, I'm wearing a wig or a topper. But I kind of think maybe I need to be brave and go on the school drop off with totally different hair and just see if anyone notices.
Yeah. And how do you manage those conversations now? Because I think that's something that gives us a lot of anxiety, is to talk about it with strangers or people we just met.
I think if you're confident and you're happy, that then reflects onto other people. So if you're all kind of like, oh yeah, it's not my hair, and you make it seem like it's something to be ashamed of, then people will think it's embarrassing for you or it's awkward. Whereas I'm very much like, oh, thanks, you know, it's a wig, and it's really gorgeous kind of thing. And I think if you project that it's great that you've got this beautiful hair and, you know, I can just style it and then throw it on. And then you give them lots of information, then it becomes a really positive conversation rather than an awkward conversation where they thought they were just complimenting you on your hair and all of a sudden you're talking about alopecia, and it's kind of a bit overwhelming for some people. Right. So I think it's just about how you talk about it. They will then reflect that back to you.
Definitely. How you get to lead the conversation and how the conversation goes. Like if you're coming from the victim perspective, that's how they're going to see you. And the first thing, you know, I didn't used to like to share with people because I didn't want people to say, I'm so sorry, right? Like I'm just like, I don't need you to be sorry. I'm not sick, right? Like that's another thing that I also want to explain to people is that I'm not a sick person, right? Like I have hair loss, but I'm not ill. You know what I mean? Like those things I think are super important to share with people because a lot of people think that we're suffering, right? And it's not really like that.
No, well, my one of my friends lost her hair really quickly, and she went from, you know, having a full head of hair to within a couple of months being completely bald. Mm-hmm. And her main issue was that everyone just assumed that she had cancer. Mm-hmm. And she found it so frustrating because everyone was really, you know, I'm so sorry for you, you're so strong. Mm-hmm. And she was like, you have no idea what's going on with me. Like, don't assume that I'm dying or I've got cancer. Like I know it's different when you're completely bald because people just think you've had chemo. Right. But even with, you know, hair loss, it doesn't mean that you're ill. You know, I think people can be quite judgy. Right. But then that's going back to what I said about if you're positive, then I think, and, you know, if you say I've got alopecia, and you don't necessarily have to say I'm not ill with it, but if you just explain the condition a little bit, like I quite often say to people, it's a bit like a man, the way that a man goes bald, where he loses his hair up here and he keeps his hair, you know, I've got the female version of that, and they seem to understand that a bit more.
Oh, that's a great thing to say. I love that. I gotta be honest, like I think that I wear hair. I mean, not only because I like it, but I find my hair loss to be a distraction. I think that if I was not wearing hair, people would not listen to me the way they listen to me. They'll be staring at my head. Yeah. Right? Like I show that to people sometimes. I just take, well, here, let me do it. So like, I'm like, listen, if I were to walk and talk to you in the street like this, right? And I'll be like, and I'll talk to you. Are you going to look at me in the eyes? Or are you going to be staring at my head? Mm. This is why I wear hair, because I don't want my hair loss to be a distraction. I don't want, you know what I mean? I want people to take me seriously. I don't want, and that's something that, I don't know if you experienced this, but I experienced that at work, actually. And I've had a lot of people that I've interviewed in the series that they're telling me that they found themselves in meetings or with a patient or whatever, and people were staring at their hair loss and not looking at them. Really? And so that's when I decided, you know what, I want to get rid of this. Also because back in the day, I was coaching and I was in HR. And so, you know, HR people, you know, like you have to get the attention of like 40 people in a room or 200 people in a room. And I didn't want, you know, that attention in my hair loss. I wanted people to listen to me. So that's one of the main reasons why I wear it, to be honest. So for you, like right now, like how's your day to day then? Are you switching it up or are you wearing just the same one?
Well, so I'm generally wearing this piece every day. I mean, I've always been pretty lazy in terms of getting ready. Like I'd rather stay in bed for half an hour than get up and do my hair and makeup. And also the baby literally doesn't give me a break. So I needed just to be able to have something that I could put on and not have to do anything. So having a fringe for me means I don't have to style it or blend it or anything. I can literally just whack it on. And I don't really do much to the hair underneath. And if I've got a few waves in, I feel like it looks a bit messy, but I'm quite happy with that. But I've got a couple of different toppers in different shades and slightly different lengths. So I was mixing it up between them. But then I was getting really stressed because I didn't have time to style one, or the length wasn't quite right. So one would be a bit too long, one would be a bit too short. So I had maybe about 4 toppers that I was trying to rotate, but they were all a bit different. And actually, I was like, I don't have time for this. Like I kind of need to go back to where I started, which was just having one piece that I wear every day and just kind of make my life simple. So actually that's working really well for me. And I feel like it does mean that people see you with the same hair every day and there's less conversations. But that's probably just where I am at the moment in my life. And I feel like once the baby gets a bit older and I've got a bit more time, I'll probably want to change it up a bit more. And I've got my eye on a red wig. So we will see if I decide to buy a red wig and then switch it up a bit. But I kind of feel like one of the benefits of wearing hair, especially if you wear wigs, is you can literally change your hair with your mood. And if you're feeling really confident and really sassy, you can go for something really bold and really bright. Or if you're feeling like you just want to go under the radar, then you can just wear something very plain and something that people aren't going to look at. And I think it's less so with toppers because you obviously have to kind of blend it with your bio hair. But I like the options. But yeah, at the moment it's just same old, same old.
Yeah. And I think it affects your mood too, right? Like even like the piece itself can bring up a different mood, right? Like for me, I love that you said that because I used to wear red hair in high school. And the first wig that I got was red because I wanted to have the red hair so bad again. And every time I put it on, I feel like I'm 15 again. I love it so much. And I don't know, it just brings like this thing for me. But you're right. Like, and also I think you can see it as an expression of you, right? Just like we express ourselves with our clothes or makeup or nails, like your hair can become that as well.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So how has it been for your husband? I mean, do you have any thoughts on that you can share for people that are struggling with, what are their partners going to think? How to involve them in the conversation? Do I ask them, what should I be buying? Or, all those thoughts yeah.
So I have been going out with my husband since I was 16. So we've been together for a long time. So he's seen the whole of my hair loss journey. And bless him, he says that he can't tell the difference between if I'm not wearing hair and if I am wearing hair, which is a really sweet thing to say because I think there's a huge difference. But I mean, I think if someone loves you, then they love you for you. And he still thinks that I look great, even though I think I look like an old man with thin hair. And I feel for people who are single or are starting a relationship and having to have that conversation about hair. And I feel like it's really easy for me to say, well, if they don't like you for you, then they're not worth it, because I'm in a position where I've got someone who does accept me for me. And I do think that it is about finding the right person. But my husband has nothing to do with my hair buying. I don't want him to know how much I'm spending on hair. He has no say over anything to do with that. The only time that I've questioned a different hairpiece was I had this short blonde bob, and years and years ago I used to have short blonde hair. Because I thought if I had it short and I dyed it blonde, it might look a bit thicker, which it made no difference. So I bought this wig that was very similar style, and I really liked it. And then my daughter saw me, and she was like, "Oh, you don't look like my mummy," and I was like, "I can't wear it now," because it freaked her out because I looked so different. So that made me sort of question. And my husband, I think he likes me with longer hair, and I am growing my hair, but not for him. It's for me. He just gets whatever I decide I'm going to have with my hair. He doesn't get much of a say in anything in our relationship.
I love that approach. Well, and you know, I think that it should be your choice too, right? Like I totally agree with you. My husband has told me like, oh, I will like if you try X or whatever, or if I like put on something, he tells me I really like that or that looks really good on you. But it's always positive comments. Like he has never said, you know, I don't like this or I don't like that.
Yeah.
And but I do feel like, you know, like I don't have a say on his haircut. Like he doesn't come to me and say like, should I shave my hair or should I shave my face? Like I don't have a say. So I also agree that we get to say what we wear and
Yeah.
how we get it and where we get it. Like that's our thing. So I agree with you 100%. But speaking of your children, because I think, oh my gosh, see, I'm having all kinds of issues with this. Speaking of your children, which I think is so important, like how are you gonna raise them when it comes to your hair loss? Like, are you gonna make it so they know that it's completely normal? Like, how are you gonna handle that?
So my older daughter is 4.5, and she obviously sees me every morning put my hair in, and she did ask me, you know, why do you clip your hair in, mummy, and other mummies don't? So we have had a conversation, and she also wanted to know why she didn't get to clip her hair in. I think she was a bit jealous because she wanted,
she wants to use your wigs.
she likes trying on my hair, which is really cute. And I just was really honest with her and said, well, mummy has hair loss, and so she wears the toppers because it makes mummy feel good, and you know, mummy likes to have different hair. So I feel like it's completely normal for her, but she does understand that other people don't wear hair. And I think I'm hoping that I try to bring her up in a very kind of open way anyway. And yeah, I think it's just if you're around something every day, it just becomes normal.
Right.
So she's never kind of thought that it's weird or it's strange that I put my hair in. And I think it's just become a normal thing, and I'll be the same with my younger daughter. And fingers crossed that neither of them have to go through hair loss. My granny had androgenic alopecia, and I didn't actually find out because my granny died before I was diagnosed. And I knew that my granny wore wigs, but when I was diagnosed, I then had a longer chat with my mum, and she said that my granny had been wearing wigs from about age 40, and she died when she was 96. So I think it's obviously, there's obviously a genetic factor because my cousin also has had hair loss. But it's obviously, it's skipped a generation because my mum and my auntie both have really thick hair. And then me and my cousin have both had hair loss issues. So I'm hoping it will skip a generation and my daughters won't have to worry about it. But if they do, I'll be there to give them advice and, you know, show them the world of alternative hair, and hopefully it won't be as traumatic for them as it was for me.
Right. And you will be the best example, right? Like you will show them how to live this life. And I think that's so important that, you know, if we're raised, like for instance, I don't know if you know who Kylie Bamberger is, but Kylie's one of, you know, she's in the community, and her parents pretty much raised her to in a way where she just felt like it was totally okay. Like she felt 100% okay with her hair loss. And I think that is so powerful, right? Like if we just raise our children to know that we're all different, that everybody has something, right? And just embrace those differences. Like they're not gonna grow up thinking that there is something wrong with them, which I think that's, you know, for me personally, who I started losing my hair in my teen years and then in college. So like I felt that there was something wrong with me, right? Like legitimately grew up thinking that I was broken, something was wrong with me. So like if we just teach our children that there is nothing wrong with this and it's just another difference, just like everything else, that, you know, they shouldn't have a problem. And they'll have a mom that is already rocking it. So perfect. So I know you're doing something special for Alopecia Awareness Month.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about that.
So September is my birthday, which was yesterday.
Yay!
And woohoo! I like a fuss. I'm big on birthdays. I kind of feel like if you don't make a fuss on your birthday, what's the point? You're just counting down the years until death. So I'm like, yay
So
for birthday.
how was this birthday different? Because I mean, not only you have a second child now, right? Is this your first birthday being open on Instagram and all these things?
Yes. Yeah.
How different was that?
Yeah, I mean, it was really nice because I put lots of stuff on Instagram about my birthday and got lots of love from people, which I really liked. I think being a parent, you can't be quite as selfish and self-indulgent because you have children. But I was up at 6:30 and my husband and my older daughter bought me in coffee and cake, so I was very happy about that. And yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say it was particularly different. It was nice to kind of be able to share it with people. And I kind of I did a post on Instagram and I tied it in with the fundraising that I'm doing, because September is the 15th anniversary of the charity Alopecia UK setting up. So they're doing a really big fundraising push this month. And it's called 15 for 15. So they've asked, I think it's 100 people to do 15 challenges in September. And I was trying to think what I could do as a fundraising challenge. But I've got problems with my knees and I have a very young baby. So I was like, I'm not going to go and climb a mountain or, do anything too strenuous with my body. And I was like, what can I do to raise money? And then I thought, I'll use my Instagram page. So I approached a load of different, wig manufacturers, hair loss brands, basically anyone that I followed on Instagram that sold something to do with hair loss, and asked them if they would donate a prize that I could then raffle off. So I thought, right, I'll do 15 raffles. And then people, to enter the raffle, they have to donate to Alopecia UK. And that I've been absolutely blown away by how generous all these companies have been. Like, one company has given away a wig worth nearly £1,000, which is just amazing. And so I've got wigs, I've got a human hair topper, a gift voucher for turbans, I've got some lovely hair care packs, like a pampering pack, tons of really amazing things. And all of the raffles will be open for the whole of September. So if anyone watches this and thinks, oh, I'd quite like to enter, if you go onto my Instagram page, you can see there's 15 different posts that have all the different prizes, and there's information on there of how to enter. And I'd set myself a target of raising £150, which I've already smashed. Yay! So thank you to everyone who has already donated. And I've doubled it to now £300. But really, I just want to make sure that all of the prizes go to a good home. So there's still a few where not many people have entered, or maybe like 1 or 2 people have entered. So I've now done a post, and it lets people know which ones haven't got many entries. So if you do donate and you enter, you've got a really, really good chance of winning. So yeah, everyone go to my page and look at the prizes. But it's been a really enjoyable experience. I've never really done fundraising before, and I contacted all these companies not thinking anyone would get back to me, and then I was just so chuffed that so many people wanted to support the charity. And Alopecia UK, they do really important work. So they support women that have hair loss, and they do research into different types of hair loss, and they raise awareness. And I think a lot of people, if they think of an alopecia charity, they think of women who've lost all their hair and are completely bald. But Alopecia UK also covers, women like me who have androgenic alopecia, so they still have some hair. So I kind of wanted to raise a bit more awareness that there are some of us who are going through hair loss, and it is still really difficult, and it's just different from losing all your hair. So yeah, I'm really sort of happy with how many people have supported me, but there's still time left. So all of the raffles close at the end of September, and then I'll draw the winners in October.
That's amazing. Thank you so much, for sharing that with us. So they'll have until the end of the month to enter and let you know which prize they want to participate on.
Yeah,
Is that correct?
so each there's 15 raffles, and each raffle has its own specific code. So when you go to donate on the Just Giving website, you essentially put which code you want, and then that tells me which ones you're entering. It kind of sounds complicated, but I've explained it on the post, and I think like people have entered, and I think it makes sense.
Right, and it'll make it even more simpler because you're sharing the link with me to enter the raffle. So that's going to be on your speaker page. So just right here below where you're watching this interview, you're going to have a link that you can go to the page so you can donate, and then you'll let her know. And that's it. So super simple, just right here.
Thank you.
All right, Georgie, it's been a pleasure to have you. Thank you so much for everything you're doing. And, I hope we get to do this again. It's been super fun. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. It's been really lovely talking to you.
Yeah, we'll talk to you guys soon. See you in the next interview. Bye.
Take care.